It was a quiet afternoon, and 12-year-old Oliver was lounging on the couch, flipping through the channels on the TV. His mom, Emily, entered the room with a strange look on her face. Her eyes seemed distant, almost as if she were somewhere else entirely. Oliver didn't think much of it. His mom often looked tired or lost in thought when his dad was away on business trips. "Can we watch a movie together?" she asked, sitting down next to him. Oliver shrugged, nodding. He didn't mind, he always loved movie time with mom. But then Emily put on a movie that made him squirm a little. It was one of those romantic dramas. They usually weren't his thing, but he didn't want to complain. She seemed oddly invested in it, her eyes glued to the screen as though it had some hidden message only she could understand. Oliver glanced up at her, a bit uncomfortable. "Mom, why are we watching this? Dad will be back soon." Emily's face softened, and she looked down at him, her gaze momentarily unfocused. "Oh, don't worry, honey. I just thought we could try something different today," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She kept her eyes on the screen, not meeting Oliver's gaze. As the scenes unfolded, Oliver began to feel a strange tension in the air. He shifted uneasily on the couch, not sure what was making him feel so uncomfortable. The characters on screen were entangled in complicated relationships, and the dialogue hinted at secrets and betrayal. Emily seemed oddly absorbed, her attention lingering on certain moments that Oliver didn't understand but somehow felt he wasn't supposed to be watching. The doorbell rang, breaking the silence. Emily snapped out of her trance and gave Oliver a quick smile. "I'll be right back, sweetie." She got up and walked to the door, leaving Oliver alone with the movie. He sighed, thankful for a break from the heavy story. But as she opened the door, he noticed a man standing there, someone he didn't recognize. Oliver strained to catch their conversation, but they spoke in hushed voices. The man leaned closer to Emily, his hand briefly touching her arm, and she glanced nervously back toward Oliver. "Mom," Oliver called out, feeling a strange knot form in his stomach. Emily quickly turned, giving him a reassuring smile, though it seemed a bit forced. "Just an old friend, honey. I'll be right back." Oliver lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what he'd seen. Sleep wouldn't come. The man's face and his mom's uncomfortable smiles kept replaying in his mind like scenes from a movie he couldn't turn off. He didn't fully understand why it bothered him so much. He'd seen his parents greet people before, even old friends, but this felt different, like there was a wall between him and his mom, something she was hiding from him. The house was silent, the kind of quiet that made every small noise feel magnified. He heard his mom walking around downstairs, probably cleaning up or finishing some late work. A part of him wanted to go down and ask her about the man again, but he knew he wouldn't get a different answer. He'd seen that look in her eyes, that strange flicker of discomfort, and he was old enough to know when adults were lying. She wouldn't tell him the truth, not yet. The next morning, Oliver shuffled into the kitchen, still feeling the weight of the previous day's events. His dad was due back that evening, and the thought of seeing him brought some comfort. As he sat down at the breakfast table, he noticed his mom was acting strange again, overly cheerful and avoiding eye contact. She kept busying herself with tasks that didn't need doing, like rearranging the coffee mugs and wiping the already clean countertop. "Mom," Oliver finally spoke up, hoping to break the tense silence. "Is Dad still coming back today?" Emily stopped mid-wipe, her hand hovering over the countertop. "Of course, sweetie," she replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "He should be home just after dinner." The reassurance should have put him at ease, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something lurking beneath her words, something she wasn't saying. He wanted to ask her about the man again, but he hesitated, not wanting to upset her. Instead, he nodded and picked at his cereal, feeling the unease settle deeper in his chest. That afternoon, Oliver tried to distract himself by hanging out with his best friend, Jamie. They spent hours playing video games, but his mind kept wandering back to the mysterious visitor and his mom's strange behavior. When Jamie finally noticed Oliver's distracted look, he nudged him and asked, "What's up with you, man? You've been off all day." Oliver hesitated. He didn't want to admit his suspicions, not even to Jamie. But his friend's concern made him feel safe enough to share a little. "It's my mom," Oliver said slowly, glancing at the ground. "She was talking to this guy yesterday, some old friend she didn't want me to meet. It just felt weird." Jamie raised an eyebrow, leaning closer. "Weird how? Like, creepy weird?" "No, not creepy." Oliver struggled to find the right words. "Just secretive, like she was hiding something." Jamie shrugged, though his face showed concern. "Maybe he's just someone she hasn't seen in a while. People act strange when they're around old friends sometimes." But even as he said it, he didn't seem convinced, and the uncertainty lingered between them. After Jamie left, Oliver walked back home, the weight in his chest growing heavier with each step. He tried to shake off the thoughts, but the image of his mom with that man stayed with him, haunting him. As the day wore on, he waited eagerly for his dad's return, hoping that things would feel normal again once he was home. Finally, as evening settled, Oliver heard the sound of a car pulling up in the driveway. His heart leapt, and he rushed to the window to see his dad stepping out of the car, looking tired but smiling. Relief washed over him. Maybe now, everything would go back to how it was supposed to be. His dad, Tom, opened the front door, and the familiar scent of his cologne filled the air. Oliver ran up to him, hugging him tightly. "Hey, kiddo," Tom laughed, ruffling Oliver's hair. "Did you miss me?" "Yeah," Oliver mumbled, clinging to his dad a little longer than usual. He didn't say it out loud, but his dad's presence made him feel safe, like things could be okay again. Emily appeared in the doorway, her smile warm and welcoming, but Oliver noticed her eyes flickering nervously between him and his dad. She seemed relieved, almost as if she, too, needed Tom's presence to keep something hidden. Tom gave her a quick kiss and pulled her into a hug, oblivious to the tension that lingered in the room. As they sat down for dinner, Oliver watched his parents closely, picking up on every small gesture and glance. His dad was his usual cheerful self, talking about his work trip and asking Oliver about school. But his mom seemed distant, smiling only when necessary and often staring into her plate as if lost in thought. After dinner, as Tom was unpacking his suitcase upstairs, Oliver decided to take a chance. He waited until his mom was in the kitchen, alone, and walked up to her, his heart pounding. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Emily looked up, startled, and quickly forced a smile. "Of course, honey, what's on your mind? Yesterday, that man who came by, who was he really?" Oliver asked, watching her face carefully. Her smile faltered, and a flash of something, fear, maybe, crossed her face. She quickly recovered, though, laughing lightly. "I told you, he was just an old friend. Then why were you acting so weird?" Oliver pressed, refusing to let it go. "You looked different." Emily's face grew serious, and she knelt down to his level, putting a hand on his shoulder. "Oliver, sometimes adults have complicated friendships. It doesn't mean anything bad. You don't have to worry, okay?" But her answer felt hollow, and Oliver's stomach twisted with unease. He nodded slowly, not wanting to argue, but he couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something big. Later that night, he heard his parents talking in hushed tones in their bedroom. He couldn't make out the words, but he caught his mom's voice, low and pleading, and his dad's calm, steady replies. Oliver lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, feeling more alone than ever. Something was changing in his family, something he couldn't understand but felt deeply in his bones. As the days went by, his mom grew more distant, often lost in thought or checking her phone nervously. His dad didn't seem to notice, wrapped up in work and daily routines, but Oliver noticed every small change. And the mystery of that visitor lingered, gnawing at him, a secret he was desperate to uncover. One evening, as his parents were out, Oliver snuck into his mom's office, hoping to find something, anything, that would explain the strange man's visit. He felt guilty, invading her privacy, but he couldn't let it go. After rummaging through a few drawers, he found a crumpled note with a phone number scrawled hastily on it, along with a name he didn't recognize. His heart raced as he realized this might be connected to the man he'd seen. Taking a deep breath, Oliver pocketed the note, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. He didn't know what he'd uncover, but he was determined to get to the bottom of this secret, even if it meant shattering the fragile world he'd always known.